Welcome back to Square Enix Presents. We are coming to you live from E3 2014. The Square Enix Presents channel broadcasts from major games all around the world, and we are here to keep you up to speed on the games that you love. My name is Rich Briggs. I am the brand director over at Crystal Dynamics. I'm very excited to be here, and as you've seen, we have had a ton of great content today and yesterday on the show, so make sure that you click the subscribe button so you can keep getting this content, because we've got plenty more coming up. Speaking of great content, we have Lara Croft and the Temple of Osiris. Very exciting. You may not have seen the trailer when we revealed it on Monday. Just in case you didn't, we're going to roll it for you right now, but if you did look at the trailer, look again, because there may be a few things you're going to want to pay attention to. Very exciting stuff. And I am very pleased to say that today we have my good friend Scot Amos here today. He is the executive producer on Lara Croft and the Temple of Osiris. Scot, thanks so much for joining us.
Absolutely my pleasure, Rich. It's always thrilling to be at E3 and get to show off a new product like this, so happy to be here.
Absolutely. And tell us a little bit about the project. How did it come about?
Yeah, so certainly for us, Lara Croft and the Guardian of Light back in 2010 was one of those ways for Crystal to reintroduce Lara Croft as a franchise and say this is a new take on Lara, bringing back to the roots that classic arcade kind of nostalgic platforming action game. From there, people loved it. It was one of those instant classics, did great on digital download, critical acclaim. The fans have been asking us for a sequel ever since. As you know, we were kind of focused on rebooting Tomb Raider for the last few years, and that happened in 2013, definitive edition earlier this year, but we always wanted to go back to this world. So being able to get back to it now and say, listening to our fans, looking at the location and saying, this is a chance for us to go and tap back into that arcade roots that we love.
And it definitely has a really compelling story. You get the idea that Lara's in this huge temple from, the video. So talk to us a little bit about what this next adventure will entail.
Yeah, so certainly Osiris itself in the title here, looking at Egyptian mythology, fans have been asking for us, we want to go back to Egypt. It's this great location. So we said, let's go look at some myths, some legends that we hadn't tapped into yet, that we hadn't done anything with. The Temple of Osiris and the whole myth and prophecy of Osiris came with this kind of blood feud between two different gods, one the good one the evil one, having this entire history between them, saying how do we get Lara in the middle of that, not just as uncovering it, but actually make her part of the story. So instead of it being just discovering the temple, it's actually becoming fulfilling the prophecy of the Osiris myth. So for us, it was a natural fit for this kind of quest action adventure game.
Yeah, I love that, and this is also a franchise first, so it's not just Lara caught in the middle of this. We have Lara Croft and 4-player co-op for the first time in franchise history.
Yeah, exactly right. So we actually introduced a new character to the canon, Carter Bell, who's actually kind of the competitive archaeologist. You think Belloc versus Indiana Jones, that kind of feeling, where you have somebody who's smart and talented as an archaeologist, but is a competitor. They're forced together to cooperate because they both get cursed at the very beginning by discovering this temple. And then you actually have the two other gods, Isis and Horus, the wife and son of Osiris, who they free by taking the curse on themselves, now you have this 4-player team that has to work together.
Yeah, and it's also got a lot of fun other features in it that we're going to be revealing soon. But one of the things I did notice, it feels like there's an Easter egg in the trailer.
Actually, there's no less than 4 Easter eggs in that trailer. There might actually be 5 if I go back and look at it myself now. But one of the very sought-after collectibles from the Guardian days were these red skulls. Hidden everywhere. We put them in very nooks and crannies for people to go back and play and replay to try and find these things like a completionist thing. So in the trailer, we actually threw a few of them in there that if you look closely, they're usually on the edge of the frame, but they're only there for a frame or two. But you can see at least 4. I think there's actually 5 red skull locations you can discover from the trailer.
See, I told you guys that you were going to want to watch closely, so commence with the frame scrubbing. See if you can find those hidden red skulls. And that obviously leads me to believe there's going to be pickups and collectibles and upgrades for your character.
Absolutely. Looking at both weaponry, we have tons of guns that you can go and find throughout the game, which is always fun. People want different types of weaponry. But we have a customization system for rings and for amulets. So rings are things you have a left and right hand. You can actually carry 2 different types of rings. They have a rarity leveling. You think of a Diablo or Borderlands, where you have kind of a white all the way to an orange rarity. You go back and keep grinding through these tombs and actually finding more and more treasure. Certain items you can only get for yourself, so you actually want to compete with your friends to see you can get there first. These things are how you can customize your character. It customizes your weaponry with the rings. It actually affects their powers. Then there's amulets as well. Amulets, you actually power up your meter you can actually see on the display. But as you power that up, you can actually make a team power up. So the amulets can actually affect everybody in your team, such as health regeneration or ammo regeneration. So now players playing together can customize how they want to help each other in the team.
That's awesome. And I know I'm one of the lucky ones that gets to play this very regularly over at the studio, so we promise you guys will get your chance soon. But the thing I love about it is that camaraderie, that couch co-op play where friends can just drop in, drop out anytime, whether it's online or on the couch. And that to me that's that arcade action of just 4 fans getting together, 4 friends dropping in, dropping out, and having a little fun.
Absolutely. Like for us, drop in, drop out was always a big deal. We also call it drop your friends because you can use your grapple to make tight ropes across spike pits or across other gaps. You don't have to keep it up there. You can actually drop your friends because if they're about to get a piece of loot that you want, well, why would you want them to get there instead of you, right? So there's a little bit of competition, but it's still a cooperative game. That's the primary focus, is partnering up together. And the game changes. If you have 1 person versus 4, you can play the entire adventure all by yourself, or when you get 2, 3, or 4 people, you get more story because all 4 characters will be talking, and you'll get different types of puzzles and challenges depending on how many people are there.
Excellent. Well, we actually asked several of you on Facebook and Twitter to send in your questions, and lots of you did. So, Scott, we're going to take a few questions.
Excellent. I love live questions.
Yeah, see what we've got here. Okay, so from Twitter, Cody says it was mentioned that you get better loot if you have more players playing. What does that mean exactly?
So it's a system looking at if you're playing by yourself, grinding through a dungeon a few times, we will know that. We can track how many times you've been there, so the game will actually give you better and better stuff the more often you play. But if you have 4 people playing, then there's a higher percentage chance of the loot being more rare the more you go through there with more people.
Excellent. All right, so Cody, you got your work cut out for you. Get some friends, but really just to get the better loot.
And also to play with your friends. Come on.
Yeah, that too. Loot. All right, so we have Unsealed Games HD from Twitter said, I love that you decided to set the game in Egypt. Not enough games are set there. What inspired you to do that?
Well, I mean, the location is a classic, right? We've had Tomb Raider games in the past set in Egypt, but certainly it was the fans. I mean, we listened to the fans, and they were the ones who came up with, hey, when are we going to go back to Egypt? When are we going to see Lara back in that world? And it's a space that, excuse me, has so many opportunities. And this kind of mythology just lends itself perfectly for this kind of hunt and adventure kind of game.
Absolutely. We've got a Facebook question here from Marco Sosa. It says, does this game tie into Guardian of Light, or is it a separate story?
So you'll see even at the beginning of this, even in the trailer itself, when that book opens, that's Lara's journal, looking kind of through that history, these adventures that she's been on. So the Lara Croft universe is its own universe. So while it's a sequel in the sense of building on the mechanics, building on the kind of gameplay that people loved and we got really good at building from Guardian, but saying this is another one of the adventures, another installment in that part of the franchise. So it's a sequel for sure in the sense of the kind of mechanics and 2-player evolving to 4-player, evolving from last gen to next gen, but it's also a matter of this is a world for us where it's another adventure in the Lara Croft universe.
Excellent. And then Lee Harris also from Facebook says, will you be keeping true to the old soundtrack? That soundtrack is like the theme to my life. That's
Excellent. It's a great soundtrack. You know, our audio department is going wild right now hearing that. So for us, certainly, we have those guys who made that soundtrack. They're part of our team. We have all the learnings from that. We're not going to break something that works so well, right? So we're going to use that same kind of pattern. Since we are in ancient Egypt, we will definitely have themes kind of changing there to get that freshness to the franchise, but certainly we want to follow that same kind of pattern.
All right, so that I take that as Lee. You're going to be very happy. Going back to Twitter, Lady Croft PR. Love that handle, by the way. Will there be a co-op mode or multiplayer to play in either the story or another mode?
So specifically what we're talking about is the idea that you can play 1 to 4 player through the entire story. We're not talking about any other modes at this particular E3, but we are talking about the entire game can be played from 1 to 4 player through the front to back and replayed. The whole idea of having this loot and this rarity system is to go back through, look for those red skulls, find all the gear that you can get, and there's just so many challenges as well as challenge rooms off on the side. So there's tons of stuff to go and explore.
Awesome. Sounds like a ton of replay value. All right, so Juan de Chile said, what made you decide to do a sequel?
The fans. I mean, pure and simple, we loved the Lara Croft universe. We love having that action arcade style versus the kind of gritty reboot style. We have 2 excellent ways of looking at the same universe and being able to have different types of stories in each. But for us, the fans demanded it. So for us, we listen to you guys. So if you have other feedback, let us know. I mean, we certainly take it very seriously, and we consider all opportunities for us to go back and please our fans. The community speaks.
And we listen. And then also on Twitter, iNovaX says, will we be hearing more of Keeley Hawes in future projects?
I am thrilled to be able to absolutely tell you guys that Keeley Hawes is the voice of Lara Croft in the Temple of Osiris. So people have been asking, they weren't sure. We hadn't officially announced anything, but yes, Keeley is reprising her role for us, so we're thrilled to have her back as the voice of Lara Croft for the Temple of Osiris.
Excellent. And then there's one here that I think, if you don't mind, I'd love to take.
Sure.
Alan Digny over at Facebook says, why did you decide to keep the older Underworld-style Lara for the game as opposed to the 2013 Lara? Well, Alan, as Scott mentioned, we do have the 2 different brands under that umbrella. And the thing that we like is that this allows us to take those adventures back to that nostalgic Lara Croft, right? She's got the dual pistols, she's got the mansion, she's got the, unlimited resources to go gallivanting around the world and get herself in all sorts of trouble. Whereas the Tomb Raider reboot Lara is just starting out. She is, she's the gritty survival action Lara who doesn't have all these things just yet. And so while we aren't necessarily beholden to one or the other to tie with perfect continuity, we like to think of that young Lara who is learning to be a survivor and learning what it means to be a Tomb Raider. We like to think of her as seeing that future glimpse of the Lara that she's one day going to become in things like Temple of Osiris.
You say she's on the rise.
You could say she is on the rise. All right, then Joe Bay says, are we going to get some puzzles that really test us? I've missed them.
So we actually have a level designer back from Guardian of Light, Jeff Wages, and Jeff loves to make really hard puzzles. He loves springing them on us as the dev team, so he'll throw something out there that we can't figure out. And we're like, okay, that is not on the primary path. That goes over here. But we give Jeff his own little play spaces, these challenge tombs, where he gets to go off and go crazy and make things that I think people will be happy to bang their heads against the wall for a while to figure out that aha moment of how do you get past this particular trap or this particular puzzle. So we're excited to have a play space for those types of areas, but we also want that main story adventure to be completed by everybody. So we want to give those opportunities to get through there. There definitely are some hard puzzles in here, though.
Excellent, excellent. All right, and then let's see. Looks like the last question that we've got here is, will you bring back characters from previous games to further reinforce the new Lara Croft branded games connection to the original timeline? This is from Ryan Marshall.
What a good idea.
That is a good idea.
That's a great idea.
Ryan, I'm going to write that down. Good idea.
That's a great idea. We love listening to our fans, so.
Yeah, and continue to write in. We really appreciate everyone sending in the questions. So obviously, there's lots and lots of questions that we will get to eventually. We're not releasing all the details just yet, but it's fun to be able to share these details with you about Lara Croft and the Temple of Osiris. So Scott, I definitely appreciate you being here today.
It's absolutely my pleasure, man. It's thrilling to be at E3 and be able to show off such a great new product.
Excellent. And Lara Croft and the Temple of Osiris is coming to the PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and the PC. We've said coming soon.
Coming soon.
We're not getting a date just yet,
Not yet.
but we do mean soon when we say coming soon. And speaking of coming soon, make sure you don't go anywhere because you are absolutely going to want to stick around. Coming up next, Square Enix Music presents Yoko Shimomura. This is the composer of Kingdom Hearts, so you're going to want to stick around. Thanks again, everybody. We appreciate the time. Great being here. Enjoy the rest of the show.